Well, all right. Here we are. It's your boy Coach Malcolm with the Halftime Podcast. And we've moved some things around, shifted some things around. First and foremost, is I'm very glad to be back. It's been a minute since I've tried to put together a full conversation with you all. And for those that are still interested in the Halftime Podcast and the perspective that is brought from this space, my heart is near and dear to you, and I appreciate your patience. A couple of announcements. The Halftime Podcast has been a little, I guess, how can I put it? I guess not consistent a little bit, or a little bit quiet due to the nature of me being a varsity high school coach. And during that time period between November up until about late February, early March, basketball season was happening. So it was very hard to try to get around to like doing episodes, doing these shows, and doing things like that while basketball season was going on. Plus, I was very locked in and committed to seeing exactly what this season could become. Ultimately, we ended up winning our conference this year, and then we lost in the second round of the regional state bracket. So, not necessarily everything that I wanted to accomplish this season, but for the most part, a lot of the things that I thought could come about did happen this season. So I was very excited about that. So that's one of the reasons. Another announcement to make is Coach Conrad um, will not be a consistent part of the show as of now. Um, he has commitments and different things that's going on, and so he will not be a consistent part of the show. There is opportunity always for him to join in as a guest on certain things, or whatever the case may be, if he sees fit. But as of right now, it's just your boy Coach Malcolm. I will try to basically spice it up a little bit, try to see if I can get some guests to come in from time to time, and just kind of see exactly how I can keep this thing going and flowing the way that I feel like it can. So, with that being said, let's get right into it a little bit. So, I know it's been a minute, and it's been a minute since I've gotten a chance to conversate and communicate. So, the first thing I wanted to talk about was obviously the Bears positioning themselves to live in Chicago. As a fan, of course, I am very upset about this being a possibility because my fandom is here with the Chicago Bears, Chicago being first. Now there was a time where they were positioning themselves to go to Arlington Heights, and I wasn't a fan of that either. But at least that was considered to be Chicagoland area, and so that was something that you could kind of just get along with a little bit because there's a lot of teams that are given the moniker of being in a big city, but the actual stadium and facilities is like outside of the actual city that they claim and things like that. So that makes sense. Like for instance, the Dallas Cowboys are not necessarily playing in Dallas. A lot of their stuff is in Arlington, Texas, and stuff like that. So I understand what I'm saying from that perspective. So that wasn't a big deal. However, now this conversation about the Bears moving potentially to a whole other state, such as Indiana, that's where as a fan it gets a little like, well, I'm not interested in that. I'm not interested in being a fan of the Indiana Bears. I'm a Chicago Bears fan. So with that being said, if the Bears were to move to Indiana, there's a strong chance that my fandom would die and leave with them leaving to Indiana. I don't know if I can sit around and be a diehard fan of the Indiana Bears. I don't know if that's how that'll go in my soul and in my spirit. So we'll see. Now, from a business perspective, as you look at it from the view of the McCaskey family, many Chicago Bears fans know that they don't own Soldier Field. Now, people who are not fans of the Bears may not know that, but as fans of the Chicago Bears, we know that they do not own the field, which means that they rent the field during the Bears season to the city of Chicago, and they make their money off ticket sales and different things like that, merchandise and whatever the case may be. But the money is in the stadium because outside of football season, you got concerts, you got different potential festivals or events that could potentially happen, like March Madness or anything like that. Especially if you got a domed stadium or anything like that, you open yourself up to more opportunities to make money off of that stadium. And so the McCaskey family at this point is more interested in getting in on that part of revenue. That is where they are trying to capitalize on profits and being able to own the actual stadium. Now, the city of Chicago, as we know, has ran a gambit on the Chicago Bears renting Soldier Field for years now. As you could probably, potentially put it together, they have a budget that includes the money that they make from Soldier Field for the city's budget. So a part of the city budget includes, very simply, the money being made from Soldier Field, which includes the Bears renting it. So naturally, you can see where the conflict is here. While the city of Chicago and this private interest group called Parks Friends of I think it's Friends of Chicago Parks or something like that. They're a private interest group that basically helps protect the Chicago Park District from being taken over by developers and different contractors and stuff like that. It's a way to kind of preserve the Chicago Park District because if you look at the landscape of Chicago, there's a lot of parks that if land developers could get their hands on, it would turn into high rises and all type of stuff if they could get their hands on that land. So this private interest group works on behalf of the Chicago Park District to try to maintain some sovereignty for the Chicago Park District and the ability to have those parks available for the public access and to have parks in general. And if you may or may not know, Soldier Field sits on what is considered to be Chicago Park District land. So, with that being said, while the Chicago Bears are interested in potentially building a new stadium along the lakefront, it would include conversations with this interest group and it would include conversations with the city of Chicago. And the reason why is because the park district, the people that are interested in maintaining sovereignty over the park districts and the lands that it holds, they would want to know exactly how that land and area, stadium, and everything that's going to be done to revamp the look of that will still be used and available for the public the way all of the parks throughout Chicago is beneficial to the public. So they would like to still know how the Bears will still plan on making sure that land and area is developed to be useful for the residents of Chicago and not privatized for just Chicago Bears events or stadium events and stuff like that. So that's one part of it when you think about redeveloping that area with a new stadium and everything else like that. Second part is the city of Chicago, who is again banking on the stadium and the profits that it makes during the seasons from the Bears renting it and from concerts like Beyonce or Jay-Z or Kanye West or anything else that goes on at Soldier Field. That's a part of the city budget, the money that's made from that field. So if the Chicago Bears are in some degree taking majority equity stake or share of revenue from that new stadium being built, that kind of leaves the city of Chicago with a hole in their budget. And there is where the conflict ensues and where it grows. And so what you have now is this cat and mouse game in my mind between the Chicago Bears organization and the McCaskey family threatening to leave because there is an equity split that is not being agreed upon between what the McCaskey family would like to have versus what the city of Chicago is used to having. Along with that, the city of Chicago and the state of Illinois has not been forthcoming or forthright about whether or not they are going to help in participating to build this new stadium. Now, I know as a patron of the city of Chicago, as a homeowner of the city of Chicago, as a resident of the state of Illinois, I understand why the city of Chicago and the state of Illinois is positioning themselves for saying that they will not help the Bears build a new stadium and blah, blah, blah because of this, this, this. it's election time, right? Governor Pritzker is trying to get reelected. Brandon Johnson, the mayor of Chicago, is trying to stay in good graces with the people. They do not want to turn around and tell residents of Chicago and residents of the state of Illinois that in order to keep the Chicago Bears in Chicago, build this new stadium and do something that would be ultimately the right thing to do, that taxes will have to go up and that the people in Chicago and the state of Illinois residents will have to pay higher property taxes and different things like that to kind of help the state and the city help the Chicago Bears build a new stadium. Because as of right now, the state of Illinois and the state of Chicago are saying that they're not going to help put any money behind building a new stadium. And that's because they don't want to tax us, quote unquote. But it's only the reason why they're saying this is because everybody's trying to get reelected. So during this period of trying to get reelected, you're going to say all the right things to keep yourself in position to get reelected. And talking about raising taxes or adding more taxes or property taxes or whatever else going up and things changing is not going to help the situation. It's not going to help you get reelected. And so you are playing in a way of trying to hold off the bad news until you get back into office and then say, okay, now that we're back, we can finally let them know, all right, we're going to make sure the Bears stay here. We're going to help them build this new stadium, but it's going to come off the taxpayers' dollars. Me, I know that, and I understand that, and I know it's just a waiting game. However, the Bears have to at least make the state of Illinois and the city of Chicago feel pressured to do so and make them understand that they can find themselves outside of the city and in a whole nother state where somebody is willing to help them build the stadium, give them equity share, and do all the things that they're looking for that's not happening in the city of Chicago currently when it comes down to the relationship with Soldier Field. Ultimately, what I think is going to happen is I think we're not going to hear any more of anything else in the summertime this year of 2026. We might hear some more language about how Indiana is still pushing for the Bears to come, and the Bears are still mulling over it and considering it, but they have a loyalty to the city of Chicago and the fan base here and blah, blah, blah. We're going to hear a lot of that back and forth is what I think is going to happen over the summer. I can't guarantee it because I'm not the one running the business, right? So, I can't say this is a fact, but I'm saying that I do believe that this is what's going to happen. And then come November, once we get back into the swing of the NFL season and Governor Pritzker or whoever else has been reelected, that is when we will be in a situation where they'll finally come out and tell us that there is a plan for a new stadium to be built on the lakefront and that the Chicago Bears, the state of Illinois, and the city of Chicago have agreed to a mutual understanding of how much the state will give, how much the city will give, and how much the Chicago Bears McCaskey family will give to building this stadium. And the governor and the mayor will come together to explain that there will be some new taxes and blah, blah, blah to try to help with building the stadium, but it will all be about making sure that the Bears stay in Chicago. And that'll be what'll come of it. And I think that's ultimately where we're headed. It's just, you got to play the politics. You got to do the things that's right for, sake of public eye, public opinion, while you're trying to get reelected. The Bears don't really want to leave Chicago because they know how strong their fan base has been, since the beginning of, the National Football League in this country, and how much the Bears have been a flagship team to the NFL, and how much being in Chicago means so much to the market of the NFL. You know what I mean? So it's like, no way do they really want to move to Indiana. They want to maintain being the Chicago Bears. That by itself is literally, between the Chicago Bears, the Pittsburgh Steelers, the New York Giants, and the Green Bay Packers, that's literally the four pillars of the NFL. So it's like, you don't want to lose that, along with the Browns. You don't want to lose that glue. You don't want to lose that name, that luster of being the Chicago Bears for the NFL and for the sake of the franchise and the history and the legacy of being the Chicago Bears. And so I think that's where we're truly headed with that particular situation. Like I said, in summary, just to recap it, right now the politics is taking over. Politicians don't want to come out and say, Governor Pritzker don't want to come out and say, Mayor Brandon Johnson don't want to come out and say that they're going to help the Bears build this new stadium. It's just going to come off the taxpayers' expense. The Chicago Bears are going to posture and make it seem like they will leave so that they can put, pressure on the state and on the city of Chicago to get something done. The city of Chicago, the state of Illinois, and the Chicago Bears will come to a mutual equity share, revenue share, when it comes down to the new stadium and what the McCaskey family can expect to make in revenue share and profit sharing, and what the city of Chicago can get and stuff like that. So I think all of that will be agreed upon come the start of next season, right after October, November. We'll finally get that information and all this resolution together somewhere between Thanksgiving going into Christmas of this year. We'll get that that resolution and how the Bears will be in Chicago, and then come either 2028 or 2029, the Bears will be in their new stadium along the lakefront, and we'll be watching the Bears in Chicago try to win a Super Bowl. And hopefully somewhere between 2029 and 2031 there will be a Super Bowl in Chicago, whether we're in it or not, but we'll be hosting one. So I think that's what's going to happen. I think that's what's going on currently. That's the reason why things are being held up, and that's just my opinion. That's how I'm looking at it. I could be completely wrong. Like I said, I'm not in the business spaces of what the Chicago Bears are doing. I'm not in the business space of what the city of Chicago is doing. I'm just looking from a perspective of a fan and somebody that can kind of look between how things have been done before when it comes down to big things happening in the city during this time political specter and during this time of re-election and politics. It just doesn't bode well to start talking about taxes and upping taxpayer dollars for certain things when you're trying to get reelected. So I think that's what's going on right now. But that's my thoughts on that. Really quickly, I would like to say that I'm a little, concerned right now about the lack of movement in free agency that we have had on behalf of Ryan Poles and what he has done. The letting go of so many players that we, in my mind, I felt like kind of contributed to putting us in position to be a winning team. So it'll be interesting to see exactly what Ryan Poles does, but it appears as though he believes in his ability and obviously Ben Johnson's ability and everybody else that's on his staff, their ability to scout and find talent and be able to bring that talent in and have those guys come in and be contributors even during their rookie season. It looks like that's what we're banking on and that's what we're believing in. Our ability to scout, draft, and develop ultimately. Because we haven't had any big splashes in free agency. We didn't make any trades. Max Crosby was out there. Trey Hendrickson was out there knowing that we needed edge rushers. We haven't made any moves for any big name tackles that could have been out there. We brought Braxton Jones back, who essentially lost his job to Ozzie, and now we are basically banking on him to be the starting left tackle again, even when they took him out of the lineup. So it's just interesting to see what's going on. Drew Dahlman retired, and that was the Pro Bowl center that we have been dreaming of getting, and then now he's no longer going to be a Chicago Bear, or at least actively playing. So, you just have all these different things that happen, and you're just wondering what Ryan is doing, what is he thinking, and why he didn't make any moves to kind of rectify those glaring holes and weaknesses that we still have, in my opinion. So I'm interested to see how this draft is going to go. My eyes will be glued in on that, but I will also be back with you guys probably more likely on Instagram, just having, live conversations about what I'm saying with the draft and things like that. So do expect that a little bit more from the Instagram part of things for me to go a little bit more live on Instagram just to try to get like quick responses, quick interactions, and just kind of get live feedback from you guys about what we're saying in real time, especially when it comes down to the draft. But let's pivot really quickly and talk about the NBA. They are looking at potentially expanding um, in 2028, 2029, potentially going for two expansion teams. One to be in Seattle and one to be in Las Vegas. At least that's how it's been. At least that's how it's coming across. That they're not just interested in doing one. They're interested in bringing Seattle back and then also putting the team in Vegas. Simultaneously, that being said, um, if it is a one-team situation, then Minnesota or Memphis seems like the teams that would be lobbied for moving to the Eastern Conference. And then if it's both teams, a Vegas and a Seattle team that comes, then you're probably looking at Minnesota and Memphis both moving to the East. I like the idea of the expansion teams. One, I think Seattle deserves to have a basketball team back. And I like the idea of Seattle being able to have the Supersonics back. I think you missed that. The Supersonics were definitely a force in the NBA at one point in time. They definitely had a great aura to them. Their color scheme was dope. Their jerseys was dope. I think they just brought a lot of flavor um, to the NBA, and it'll be dope to bring them back just for the sake of nostalgia and for the fact that I just think Seattle deserves that. Las Vegas. I think that's an interesting one. I think the NBA is gambling a lot there, putting a team back in or putting it back in Vegas, putting the team in Vegas, especially right now considering the fact that they have players and coaches and all type of things um, getting charged with illegal gambling and all type of racketeering rings and different things like that. So it's like it's still interesting that they're considering putting the team in Vegas. I guess where there's money, you're going to be willing to deal with the repercussions or whatever the things that potentially could be downfalls of it when there's a lot of money to be made. And right now, Vegas is definitely a place where sports and anything like that, you're going to make a lot of money. People are going to come out and watch. Betting is going to happen. So I mean, I understand it from a business perspective, but it's also risky in my mind because you. Got all of the gambling things going on currently right now, and then not to mention the culture of Vegas with basketball players and everything that comes with Vegas in the first place is like, okay, you're really signing up for for some things to really pop off with a team in Vegas. But hey, you know, it's the NBA. I think, but like I said, I do think it's a good idea. I think having 30. I think they should go for the two. I don't think they should go for one. I think they should try to get a team in Vegas and Seattle. I think they should just do both. I think that'd be great. I think it'd be phenomenal. I think moving Memphis and Minnesota to the Eastern Conference makes sense. It's perfect. Memphis is already East. Minnesota is pretty much Midwest. So it's kind of like you got so many Midwest teams that's considered in the Eastern Conference. Why not throw Minnesota, Minneapolis right on in there? So I think it's perfect. I think you should, like I said, you should bring both of those two teams back. And I think that'd be great. I did see, however, that LeBron James and his investment group team is no longer interested in trying to have an ownership group together for a Las Vegas NBA team, which is interesting to me because there were rumors for years that LeBron James and his team, his investment teams, and all of that was very much so interested in being owners of a Vegas basketball team. So to hear that now that it seems a little bit more concrete that there's a strong possibility that this expansion could come, to hear that LeBron James and his investment team and everybody is out on the idea of being a part of owning the Vegas team is very, very interesting. Makes me kind of wonder if he just doesn't want to get involved or if there is already some things going on behind doors with his involvement in gambling potentially where it just wouldn't necessarily be a great look. And maybe some skeletons could come out the closet or something like that. It just wouldn't be the best idea for him to be a part of an NBA team that's in Vegas right now. That could be the case. So I'm interested to see who will end up being the ownership groups and the people that participate in trying to get a team to Seattle or get a team back in Seattle and then get a team in Vegas. It would be interesting to see who will be a part of those ownership groups and those investment groups. Hopefully, it'll be some minorities, of course, because I'm always about minority ownership and different things like that. Obviously, being a minority myself, so it'd be dope to see that happen. But obviously, most important to me is that I want owners who care about winning. When you have owners that care about winning, you get good product. You get ownerships who are willing to spend the money, who are not afraid to taking risks and taking gambles on trading for guys that can help them right now win. And I think that's how you put together a good team. That's how you put together a good product. That's how you put some type of energy into the season and different things like that. So whoever gets these teams, I hope they're coming in with the attitude of wanting to win. Because as a Chicago Bulls fan, it's perfectly clear that the ownership group with the Chicago Bulls, excuse me, do not care about winning right now. As long as they ticket sell, as long as they know that they're going to get fans in the seat, they could care less about winning basketball games or winning an NBA championship. If it happens, it happens. If it don't, it don't. And as a Chicago Bulls fan right now, I am literally at a point where I can't shed tears. I can't even get mad. I'm just so indifferent that it's almost like I don't care. They've numbed me to a point where my feelings can no longer be felt because I've been angry, I've been upset, I've been irate, I've been sad, I've been depressed, I've been confused, I've been flabbergasted, I've been any adjective that you almost want to throw out there that can, coincide with sad, happy. I mean, coincide with sad, mad, and confused. Whatever adjectives, synonyms you got to go along with that, you can drop them in the comment section because that's how I feel when it comes down to the Chicago Bulls and the ownership group with them. So, like I said, I hope whoever gets these expansion teams are coming in willing to win games, wanting to bring excitement to the NBA, wanting to make those teams competitive, and not just come in to make a little bit of money and use it as a way to leverage themselves for different things outside of basketball and just add it to their financial portfolio. Because we can see a lot of that happening with owners coming into the NBA or owners coming into the NFL, just coming in, just adding these teams to their financial portfolio to help them leverage to do things out in other spaces. So we'll see how that goes. The other thing with the NBA right now is this notion of not playing 82 games is really pissing me off. This lessening the schedule to somehow improve the game doesn't make any sense to me. I don't know exactly why the NBA believes that this is going to help. I don't know if they think less games is going to help players not get hurt. To me, I think the reason why these players get hurt is because they don't play enough. Their bodies are not going through the proper stress that it should go through to be able to manage the type of play and the type of speed and the type of stress they put on their bodies during games. So because they are not practicing a lot, because they're doing so much weak training consistently, when they get into these games where they have to activate muscles at a certain speed and velocity in which they don't do on a consistent basis, that's where the injuries are coming from. The injuries are coming from the fact that they don't practice and they don't do these things on a consistent level. And that's why they're getting hurt so much. And I think lessening the games is only going to help perpetuate more injuries. Because now these guys, not only are they not practicing, but now they're playing less games. So now they're doubling down on not putting the type of stress that they need on their body to respond to it. Just like anything, if you want to have a good response to something, you have to be able to put yourself through that situation. How can I ever know I can deal with something unless I put myself through it? And then I can know exactly how I respond and how I deal with it. Your body is the same way. When you're trying to build muscle, you got to break the muscle. You got to break the tissue in order to build the muscle up. So it's the same way with your body when it comes down to being an athlete. If I know I'm going to put myself through this much force, this much velocity, this much speed on a consistent basis. I have to practice that way. I have to work out that way. I have to get in as many repetitions at this speed, at this velocity, at this power, and all of that on a consistent basis so that my body knows how to adjust and respond to this in real time. So that when I do get out there on the court and I'm running at this speed and moving ball, my body is not looking at this as a foreign thing and then responding in a negative way instead of in a positive way. Because I believe that that's what's happening. A lot of the injuries is due to the body responding negatively to the way that these players are playing now because they don't play at all. They don't play as much. They don't practice as much. They don't do anything as much. So I mean, like, getting inside of a swimming pool every day at practice ain't gonna, get your body right. You know what I mean? Like these hyperbolic chambers and chrome, therapy and all, all the stuff that these guys are trying to do. It don't work like just going on the floor and running real fast and making your legs having to move at that certain speed all the time that you're gonna play at. Doesn't work like how those guys back in the day used to um, not get hurt as much and be able to play 82 games. You look at somebody like Mike who played 82 games so many times in his careers. It's almost absurd that you got guys right now with all of the advances in technology that can't even average playing 60 games a year. And if the game is too fast, then these players need to say that. They need to say we got to slow it down a little bit. And I know everything is about excitement, and a lot of things about appealing to the fan bases and to the fans and getting points up and blah, blah, blah. But there's a way that you can still be exciting and still offer a good quality product while still protecting yourselves and your bodies. So if the game is too fast and it's causing too much stress on the players' bodies, then the players need to say, like, hey, we got to adjust this a little bit. We got to not be getting up the court so fast all the time. We have to be more methodical about transition and stuff like that and get back to playing solid fundamental basketball. And maybe that decreases the points per game for every single game across the league by 12 points per game. Maybe we're no longer seeing games get to 130, 140 points and stuff like that. Maybe we start getting to a tailoring off of a 108, 118, 118, somewhere between that on average. I'm perfectly fine with that if the quality of basketball is better and we're not also sitting around trying to figure out, well, when is Tyrese going to come back? Or would the Indiana Pacers won that series if Tyrese didn't get hurt? Or Jason Tatum, how long is he going to be out? Or Joel Embiid, why is he always hurt? Or Stephen Curry right now with the knee, is the pace of play too fast for him now? You know what I mean? So it's just like, I would much rather the game be in a space where players are protected and they can actually have the ability to finish a season healthy so that we can really get the best product out there and we can really see what stars and what superstars can really carry their teams to the finish line instead of it being parity built off of injury. Because that's what it feels like. It doesn't feel like we have parity because other guys are just stepping up and other teams are just coming together and gelling at the right time and winning. It seems like we're getting parity through injury. And that is not necessarily a fun thing to watch, a fun thing to see. And as a competitor, if I was an NBA player, wouldn't necessarily even be happy about it because I'm not really beating guys. I'm not really going through guys, getting to the championship. It's not that I'm evading them either. I'm just not having to play them because this guy got hurt and that guy got hurt and this guy got hurt in the second round or went down game 6 in the first round or so it's like you're happy about winning, but as a competitor you want to beat guys along the way. You know what I'm saying? You want to make sure guys know when you look them in the eye, like, I did that to you. I took that from you in the first round. I took that from you in the second round. I beat you in the conference and I killed you in the finals. You know what I'm saying? Like, those are the bragging rights that if you're a real competitor, those are the things that you really wish you could really sit back and say. But yeah, that's my thoughts on the Bears situation. That's my thoughts on what's going on in the NBA right now. Um, this is season 3. This is the first episode of season 3. So I will be back most likely next Friday or next Saturday with another episode to talk about some more things. Like I said, throughout the course of the week, expect me to have more halftime shorts, which I've been doing, along with potentially going live when there are some things that I want to talk about right away. Along with that, I think I'm going to start actually doing some things where I react to other things that's going on in sports media from like Gilbert Arenas or from First Take or anything like that. So if that's something that you guys would be interested in hearing me kind of like respond back to certain things that I'm seeing from other media pundits, please let me know, because there are some things that some of these guys say that I just have thoughts about, and I be thinking to myself like, man, I should really, express how I think that this is foolish or this is actually a good take or whatever the case may be. But I truly try to leave the halftime podcast to be more so about the original scope of my ideas and not necessarily me responding to somebody else. But if that is something that you guys would be interested in, please leave comments below and let me know. Again, this is your boy Coach Malcolm with the halftime podcast. I am back. We are back. And I look forward to giving you guys more content on the way. Peace, blessings, prosperity to you all. Peace out.